What is going on, everybody? Welcome in to the North End Podcast, episode 113. My name is Zach Graham, your host here in the North End, joined, as always, by my good buddy. He's on record as my best friend. His name is Ian Michaud, and we call him E, a.k.a. Lee James, a.k.a. Sebastian Drew Easy, a.k.a. Eastradamus, a.k.a. Pap E, O. Daniel, a.k.a. The Fashionista, a.k.a. Chili Willy, a.k.a. Joe E. Chestnut, a.k.a. Eon Stockel. E. We said we were going to have more to talk about this week. I don't think we imagined this much. How you feeling?
I'm excited, man. Finally, something that we can really dive into here and have some amateur analysis on. I am still excited about the signing that we just had, the moves that we've made. They're all very encouraging, all very exciting. Micah locked up. I know we're going to get into that. Both of us are really excited about that. I feel like most people who are up with Austin FC 2 and Micah's play there understand that this is a kid that we want to lock up. So I'm excited to talk about him. Excited to talk about our favorite club here and just get into it, man. You know, it's been a long off season with not too much action that we thought was going to be coming in fast and furious, but here we are. Some fast and furious news yesterday. And let's do this, baby, for family.
Yeah, let's just start, I guess, with the last 24 hours in the Austin FC universe, because I think that'll take up probably the majority of the podcast here. We'll jump right into it. Yesterday morning, of course, last episode, and for months now, we've been, what's going to happen with Jhojan Romaña? He's putting out the smoke here. Olympia wants him. San Lorenzo. Okay, he confirms last week, right, on the radio in South America. I'm going on loan to San Lorenzo. Team puts out a press release yesterday morning titled Austin FC transfers Jhojan Romaña to San Lorenzo. And that was like, oh, what? Yeah. Oh. And, quickly following that, I mean, I guess even in kind of the madness that was the 15 minutes between that announcement and our first Tom Bogert Austin FC tweet of this 24-hour period, there were a couple outlets specifically in South America. I think ESPN Argentina or Colombia or something like that put out like, yeah, it's a loan. There was just confusing reports because we had always thought it was going to be a loan, but Austin said transfer, and San Lorenzo's official press release said he signed a 1-year contract. And then Tommy Scoops confirming not only is it a transfer, a permanent deal, sending Romaña to San Lorenzo in Argentina, but Austin sold him for $750,000. So we'll talk about what happens with that, what that means. Obviously, on the surface, it's more than any of us expected out of this. I think the loan rumors, right, were $200K loan fee with like a $1.6 million purchase option on the end, which I think most of us all thought, yeah, that's it. That's never going to happen at the end of that. But we were happy this time last week, potentially 200 in the loan fees, whether that was just to cover his salary, whether we could turn that into GAM. We were going to dive in at the time, but now completely different. So Romaña off to San Lorenzo. That is indeed the Pope's favorite team. I don't know if you knew that fun fact. Yeah. But man, for Austin, I mean, this is just the first in a domino of big news items.
I mean, this is best case scenario. We've talked about this, ad nauseum for a long time, and to see him be transferred, not only in itself, like that is incredible. To see the return of $750K, that is just fantastic. Like I said, this is best case scenario. Again, we're wishing Jhojan the best. I hope he can revitalize his career, get started even, with a a tenure that's isn't riddled with showing up to camp not ready to go, not getting the playing time, being frustrated with that. So all in all, this is wonderful. We've been saying for a while that we wanted to get to a certain amount of money, whatever that figure may be. And this just really helps us out quite a bit. So, I mean, I am ecstatic by the move. I think everybody who tunes into this podcast understands our position with Romaña and what we wanted to see from his tenure here with Austin FC. it's over. I'm happy for that. I'm happy for Romaña, and this return that we get in obviously is fantastic. And then you see right away, money's being spent, allocated properly to fill out this roster with some more talent.
Yeah, and of course, for all of these, any of the new players that we get in outside of like your Hotter O'Briens, where we know what he was making with his option that we picked up in the reentry draft, these new signings that we're going to talk about, we don't know how much they're making. So in terms of how it fits in with the salary cap puzzle, we won't really know till like mid-April, but we can take some educated guesses based off the quality of these players, how, the designations that they come with, etc. So I guess just finishing up on the Romaña sale, right? The next question was, how much of this transfer fee can we actually convert into general allocation money for the coming year? So I will shout out and maybe scold Landon a little bit for now making me a CBA nerd, not just the rules and regulations page that the MLS kind of has. And like when you look between the two documents, like the rules and regulations page is really dumbed down from all the language here in the rules. So I guess we'll need a couple zooms here because there are contradicting pieces of information in both of those documents. If you're looking in the CBA, the one thing that is consistent among multiple sources here is that 5% of that fee is going to go to the league, but then how much you can convert out of that transfer fee depends on where you look. Because if you're looking in the CBA here, this is page 52, so section 1024, item 3 is the transfer/loan allocation, and it says, in the event a player is transferred or loaned outside of MLS, a team shall be allowed to receive a portion of the transfer revenue in accordance with the league team split as determined by MLS, and may use up to $650K of such split as an allocation. I'm not going to pull this one up on the screen for the YouTube viewers, but I'm just going to read the text in the roster rules and regulations page on the MLSsoccer.com site. This says the club may assign up to $1.157 million of transfer or loan revenue as GAM. And then in the case of DPs, you cannot use any of that transfer revenue as GAM, which is interesting. But yeah, so $650 in the CBA, $1.15 million in the roster rules and regulations page. I think the most important thing, and I should add, there is language elsewhere in the CBA talking about recouping out-of-pocket costs, which I think would be, because Romaña was on a 4-year deal, a quarter of the transfer fee that we paid to bring him on back in 2021. But that's not super clear either. But given the fact that the lower of the two numbers between these documents is $650, and it's a $750K transfer fee, I think the answer is, in terms of how much GAM we can get out of this, I think it's most of it is probably the right answer. We're not gonna ever know the exact number, but I'm treating this like the vast majority of that potential like 650-ish is going to be GAM. Because I don't remember. I don't know if it was ever disclosed what Romaña's initial transfer fee was, but I imagine a quarter of that is not. We didn't pay $2 million, right, for Romaña. So we're getting some amount of GAM back here, and to get that combined with his $460K salary cap hit off the books, let's say we did best case scenario get $650K in GAM, you just created $1 million in cap space.
You're much more well-versed and potentially the new CBA expert here on the North End pod. So I'm going to go ahead and agree with you there that we're going to get the majority of this money. And that is wonderful. And like you said there, you pair it with him coming off the books, it opens up a lot of space. Now, we're looking at, again, the three window time frame, the summer transfer window, which we are also expecting to be a exciting period of time for this club. And, just with the money that we had tied up on that back line and the ineffectiveness of that back line, and then on top of that, when we were injured, having to play players out of position because of the limitations of this roster, both in regard to the depth that we have and then the quality of that depth. And you look at that, man, and it's just so it's so nice to be looking at potential $1 million or so, just available for getting rid of this dude. And it just never worked out here. And, blame can be placed all over the place. At the end of the day, it did not work out. I understand that Romaña wasn't super happy. We weren't super happy with him. So again, this is absolute best case scenario. I'm throwing an A+ on this deal as a letter grade. It is absolutely fantastic to see that he is now, we're over this now. It's in the past. The book has closed. I mean, I was even on record saying that I would have bought him out. Like it was just
right.
It was just such an outlier on that cap sheet.
Yeah.
That the depth of our roster was like, this is a cumulative zero that we are getting out of this dude right now. And like, he is bringing nothing to the table for us, and he's getting $500,000 pretty near. So, I mean, I am just super excited that this is finally behind us. I knew that, I know that all of us were assuming, he was going to be loaned, and that was the language that was going to be used. But the transfer man, I just can't state it enough how great this is.
Yeah, man. And as our buddy, the stat man, Tim Thompson, pointed out, we are also now free from Diego Cerati.
Ooh.
Yeah.
You know what? He took enough from us. So enjoy the whatever percentage he was making off these ridiculous deals that he hooked us for.
Yeah. Well, and if you may allow me just for a minute or two more to highlight some things I found interesting while perusing this CBA yesterday and today. On page 62, it says, this is section 15.3, consideration for a loan or transfer. This text basically says that a player who is transferred is entitled to 10% of any consideration received by the league for loan or a transfer of a player's services outside of MLS. So how this reads to me is that Romaña himself is going to make about $3,300 just because of this transfer, getting that little kickback from the league, which, it's a nice little cookie on your way out. Covers your moving expenses probably, but I thought that was interesting. Considering how much player movement there is, these players on their way out are getting a little cut of the business that the team and the league is doing there. Then on page, this is just, again, more craziness from MLS. Our buddy Peach the other day told me tax evaders wish they had this many loopholes to work with.
Don't worry, they do.
Page 42. This is interesting. You can see here, salary budget floor. This is section 17 of scrolling. Section 10.10, the team's salary budget, and the salary floor ensures that not just a single team, but the league as a whole, again, single entity league, the league will spend on a league-wide basis a minimum of 95% of the combined team salary budgets set forth in the CBA. So just any idea that our team or any other team could just, to use Profe's favorite term, to just skimp around with the salary cap and pinch pennies here or there, it's against the rules to do it. We literally have to fill up not just our roster to a certain extent, but our cap sheet as well.
I mean, of course, I don't understand the sentiment that we were just going to be out here with not a full roster. That's not really what happens in any professional sport, particularly at the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is a fine rule with me. You see this in all sorts of other CBAs across the major sports here, where you have to get to a minimum for salary. And I'm fine with that. And, we don't need this section 10.10 of page 42, addendum 28 or whatever the fuck that is, to know that we were going to spend this money. Like we were going to fill out the roster. And as we pointed out, on the last pod, guys come in during training camp. We're bringing dudes in. Like, that's not a rare thing throughout this league. So I know that some people have been a little impatient with how this has played out. But again, we were
us too, man. I mean,
for sure. And we were just in a tight spot in regards to the quality that we were putting out there and the amount of money that we were spending on it. So all in due time. All in due time, my friends.
Yeah, and I know you're not suggesting that we won't have open spaces on the roster. Like, I don't think we've gone into any season. I don't think we've at any point had all 30 spots filled out. But again, there's just like there are minimum spots you have to fill on the roster, 18 guys on the senior roster. 95% of the league-wide salary cap has to be spent by the roster freeze date, which is right before the season starts in late February. Last thing I wanted to point out here, and this is just like it's just so complicated. This is on page 34 in a massive section of extra allocations, extra bonuses, whether it's team, players, regardless. This is just the one that caught my eye out of all this craziness. I guess, first of all, you can see above on the screen here, seeds 1 through 7 in each conference. Those teams will get a bonus. So you do, not just you don't have to play in that wild card game, but your players are splitting this cash. And then every regular season game, when you win a regular season game, the players active, the 20 active players on that day, split $18,000 a certain number of ways. So this is like something that I had not even considered. And can you imagine, like, it does hurt a little bit if you're 21st and left off the game day roster, if you're Rodney Redis for multiple months. Like, and again, like if that happened to you last year, you weren't missing out on many regular season game-winning bonuses, right? But like, especially if you're on a good team, it should keep the competition even more so than it should be by itself. The competition for a spot on the game day roster should be heated every week.
I mean, absolutely. And you look at that, and it's like we've talked for a while about like tanking and how there's not really any sort of incentive to do that in this league. So seeing this even more so is like, great. You can get potentially $1,000 bonus just for winning the game. Like, that's fantastic. And I would be pretty upset as well if I was the 21st dude and not cashing that check. But it's just interesting language there. I mean, I know that, obviously the NBA with their in-season tournament provided some cash incentives there, and obviously playoff teams get cash incentives when they make the playoffs. It's for regular season games. I mean, there's a fair chunk of change out there on the table for 34 regular season games, man. So, it's just interesting. It's fun to see. It's just another little part of this insane league and all of its rules that is certainly not widely known, right? So definitely a wrinkle. If you thought we were diving into the nitty-gritty on the North End pod before with the roster rules and regulations, well, welcome to the CBA North End era. It has begun. And again, shame on Landon. But also thank you, sir, for the tip. Let's move on. Okay, so Romaña saga settled. We are ecstatic. Then, and of course, at this time of year, the Bogert tweets ramping up. If you got your notifications on, your phone really doesn't have a moment to rest. But second Tom Bogert Austin FC tweet in a day. Austin FC makes its first player signing of the new year, bringing in Brazilian defender Guilherme Biro. Okay. Brazilian national, 23 years old, coming over from Mirassol Football Club, and that they are currently in Serie B in Brazil. And I will say I listened back to the We Are Austin TV Twitter space last night, and Football Critic, who again is like everybody's go-to, I feel like, for the South American football information at this point. He made a good case for the quality of Serie B and how competitive those two leagues in Brazil are. Apparently his Mirassol was 6th in Serie B this past season. Top 4 get promoted. They were 1 point off the promotion line. So this is a team that is right on the edge of the first division in Brazil. And he also mentioned some other teams. I think he said Santos down there, which is a historic club. I believe that's where Pele, Neymar, Rodrigo, names like that came from. He said they're being relegated to Serie B this coming season. So very competitive there. I know for me, when I saw second division, I was like, But the more we look at it, man, I mean, it's Brazil. Yeah, for sure. For sure. There's plenty of talent there.
Well, and I guess while we talk about this, let's go ahead and let, as we've been doing here, let's let some of his highlights play in the
Nice.
background, because I know you've checked out some highlights as well. But
Yeah, right
coming to
after.
us, go ahead.
I mean, right after the sign, I obviously go put his name in there into the old Google machine and try to figure out, what we're looking at. And the first video that popped up for me was Brazil's next gem. So I was, okay, let's take a look at this. And like you're talking about here with the Serie B. And to try to be able to evaluate the talent that he's going up against. I know that you looked at some rankings worldwide and where we ranked in regard to, all these clubs across the entire globe, and seeing how much further along, obviously, this club is. I mean, how long have they been around, established? Like this is not a league that we're gonna, scoff at by any stretch of the imagination. So seeing the talent out there, the competition levels, obviously he did have some time in the first division. Yes,
I believe so. So he's had, just reading off of the press release here, I think it's 2 separate stints in Serie A there. He previously, before Marisol, he was with Coritiba. I'm probably butchering all of these pronunciations.
probably.
But that's where he was from 2020 to 22. 72 appearances for Coritiba. Across all comps, 23 of those were in Serie A. Again, that's the top flight league there in Brazil, which I think Brazilian and Argentinian leagues are the top 2 in South America, and I think by a fairly wide margin. In 21, he played in 33 of 38 Serie B matches there, goal and assist. Last season with Marisol, primarily as a left back, and we'll talk about how he fits into our back line here in a moment. 45 clearances, 42 interceptions, 21 tackles in 29 league appearances. Marisol conceded the second fewest goals in Serie B last season, and he had 2 goals and 3 assists, 25 chances created on the attacking end of the field. And so I guess let's say this, 3-year guaranteed contract. So we've got him through 2026, team option for 2027. And that tells me a lot about Roto's confidence in this kid. Like, a no name to all of us, right? But we know his new scouts are here, putting in the work across the globe. People who know more about football than I do say that, and I think I could have probably gleaned this just thinking for a moment about clubs like Barca and Man City and like City football group as a whole, the Brazilians that they've brought in and sold on. I believe City Group owns one of the teams in the Brazilian league. So this is like not foreign territory for a guy like Roto and his team. And the fact that we're willing to go out and give 3 guaranteed years to this kid, he's 23 years old. This reads like, at least, at worst, minimum, starting in a battle for that starting spot. I think he's probably got the leg up to get the start at left back here.
I mean, yes, I've seen many people kind of hinting that Zani has this locked up on that left side, and it's like homeboy's coming off an ACL injury. And like, again, obviously it's difficult to gauge the talent levels and the competition and everything, but Kamanic doesn't move like this. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's a presence on the ball. There's a calmness that he has. You see it here. He's making a little move. Like, the left foot that he has is powerful. Like, he took some rocket shots that I've seen when he was younger from the clips that I was watching that were just super impressive. And again, it's just like you see the activity levels. He looks much more athletic than Zan. Like, it doesn't seem like that's overly close to me, irregardless of the competition level he's playing. You see the burst of speed, the plays up the sideline. Like, it looks promising to me. And at worst, splitting time on that left side. And that this might be something where he needs to get acclimated to how we want to play. But you look at the potential of the speed on that left side now with Hader and Guilherme here, and it's just like it's encouraging, man. And I think it hints to the style that we want to play. Want to get a little younger here. I like that as well. So, man, I'm just really excited to see him in action. And I think it's going to be something that we're very happy with for the extended future, given his 3-year deal with that option. And like you said, he's 23, man. Like being able to have him here, develop him more, it's just really exciting stuff. And like to see this quality of play over what we just got rid of with Romaña is
sure, yeah,
pretty stark. You know, it's something where I don't see how you can't be excited about this.
Yeah, at least for what we know right now, right? On paper and watching and highlights are highlights, right? Yep. They ain't putting out the YouTube video, the lowlights for Guilherme Biro, right? I did want to credit, it was our buddy Lobar who actually posted an LDR yesterday. He was the one looking through the Opta club rankings, which of course aren't everything, but it's a better guide than the zero knowledge that we have about Brazilian clubs here at the North End, right? Lobar told us Mirassol is ranked 396 in the world with a 75.1 rating, which is tied with CF Montreal and Minnesota United. And that's 127 spots above us. We're ranked 523rd with a 73.6 rating. So to me, what that doesn't tell me anything necessarily about the player, but the league and the team is like a mid-table MLS team, which is that's good. It's better than what I thought initially seeing second division Brazil.
I agree. I mean, I'm excited, man. It's the Brazilian league. I don't like. There's fucking dudes all over the place. I don't. Like, they're getting whatever they want. So I don't understand the discontent with potentially, you know, like knocking him down a bit because he's from the second division. But again, he's got time in the first division. And as you pointed out, their team was right there to get boosted up. And he was obviously an integral part of that.
Yeah. A lot of these game logs, he's playing full 90s, like the majority of these games.
That's awesome. You know, and like we can't talk too much, obviously, about the Brazilian league because we're not familiar with it. But again, you know, we've seen the quality that we've had here in Austin. And I mean, you see the highlights. The kid can play. Like, he can fucking play.
Well, and like you talked about the physicality there, his athleticism, like his measurements too. He's 6'2".
Yeah, he's big. He's big and he can move. And it's like, you know, and the other thing you see is like one of the things with Komanich was he's so limited in his ability to do certain things on that left side. Like we understand he puts in solid crosses. He can have a little interplay there up the sideline, but he's not really getting into all this action like you see this kid doing right now. And there's not, again, these are highlights. And I'm not going to, you know, gauge Komanich's entire career on some poor plays or whatever, but you see the aggression. You see the lack of hesitation in what he wants to do, knows where he wants to go with the ball before he's getting it. I'm excited, man. And like I said, you pair that with hot air on that side, and that's just an element that we have been lacking ever since we got rid of McKenzie and his very limited action where we just had a home run hitter who can just go over the top and go get these things. And you see these long balls, these plays in, he's about to rip one here. Like I'm excited, bro.
Yeah, he's got power on his shot, especially off the set pieces, right? The one negative that stands out to me, which I think is also an issue with Jhojan, is he's very left, like he's left-footed, and it feels like he's almost all left-footed.
In the YouTube video I watched, they did like a little profile breakdown strengths, and then the main weakness was off foot.
Yeah.
But again, we have him on that left side, and part of our strategy is to be having, you know, sweeping balls into the center of play, like in front of the box. Like, yeah, it's not like Komanich is giving us anything outside of that anyway already. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like we're going to be losing or sacrificing some sort of wrinkle to our offense here with that.
Yeah. And, you know, I think with that size, man, like if we're going to be rolling a 3 center back formation, can he play left center back and a 3 back? Like, he's 6'2". He's as big as our other center backs.
Absolutely. And, you know, we struggled in the air last year. Like we struggled
on both ends
in the air. And like, this is just a big body. Again, he seems athletic where we can get him in there. And also on both sides of the ball, like you said, defensively, offensively. It seems like a nice talent infusion, some youth, speed, athleticism. I'm very excited to see him in some green colors here.
Yep. Well, I guess we can move on from Biro here, or Biro rather, is the pronunciation that the club gave us. But that was not the end of the Tom Bogert Austin FC tweets, because early this morning, I think around 9:30 on Wednesday, third Bogert Austin tweet in 24 hours. Micah Burton signed to the first team. This just fantastic news. We literally just got the press release before we started recording here on Wednesday afternoon. And it is exactly as we wanted in the situation that we were going to start signing these homegrowns. 4-year deal plus an option for 2028. So Micah Burton sliding into one of those supplemental spots, homegrown contract until 2029. Micah Burton does not count against our salary cap.
It's awesome.
He turns 18 in March. Second homegrown signing coming up through the academy after, of course, Owen, who signed when he was 16. Also, just a reminder, Owen still extremely young. To have those two guys locked up for the next few years, and Micah for 5 if we want to. This is fantastic on paper. Fantastic MLS business. This is exactly like Roto pointed to Philadelphia without naming them twice in that last solo press conference we had. This is exactly what Philadelphia does. You fill that supplemental roster with your homegrown guys that don't count against the cap, that you can hopefully in a few years sell on to create more cap space for yourself when that potential sale happens. And not to mention, kid's pretty fucking good.
Yep. Absolutely. And I mean, like you said, it aligns with the things that Roto has been saying. And I understand the impatience with, when he was giving his pressers back in 2023 and addressing the timeline, addressing what he wants this to look like in regard to building up from the academy as well. Micah has been fantastic for FC2, obviously a very huge component to the championship that team won. So to see him locked up for potentially 5 seasons is just awesome. You have to assume he's going to continue to get better. He's going to continue to develop. His body is going to continue to fill out. He's going to get more athletic. He's going to get the experience. And it's just really awesome to see that we have this young guy here paired with Owen as well, who has come up through our academy, homegrowns, not against the cap, and someone that you could potentially get something out of. I don't know if you're going to see him anywhere near the first team, within this 1 to 2 first years here. But again, with the schedule, with how the cups are, he could, and he could see some spot work. I really wouldn't be shocked at that. He has national caps with the U18s or U17s.
17s. Yeah.
17. So he has national caps with them. So it's like he has been playing against solid competition globally. And, from all things that I've seen with him in regard to how he conducts himself on the field, kid's not afraid. You know what I mean? There's been plenty of times where I've seen him take a pretty hard foul from somebody, obviously, who's more physically developed than him. And he's not backing down, and he gets back up and he goes and he plays his game. So, I'm just really encouraged with that, man. And, we talked about this team needing depth and another talented player to be competitive next year and to be a club that can win some games, potentially, sneak into a wild card or what have you, without having to make that giant splash signing. And you look at Hot Air now, you look at Guilherme, and adding Micah into this mix as a long-term kind of vision, it's encouraging.
Yeah, I'm not surprised to see him pick up some first team minutes, whether it's just, Open Cup, what have you. But because there's a non-zero chance that Micah Burton made a significant jump in terms of his development over the last, since we last saw him winning the MLS Next Pro Championship.
Sure.
You look at the picture the club put out today, the kid, he looks older, right?
Yep.
Which, that's how time works. But, you like to see that physical maturity, right, in those young homegrown guys, because that physical maturity is what sometimes you need to take that next step to the higher division. So I think it's overwhelmingly likely that we see him play the vast majority of his minutes with FC2 this year. but
yes,
having the ability to play him more than the, 4 games on the short-term loan agreement, I think that you can, it might be 2 games you can play and 4 you can be on the bench. Like, we don't have to mess with that anymore. Anytime we need him on the bench or playing minutes for the first team, he's there. He's going to be practicing with the first team, you would think mostly full time. So this is just, man, this is exactly what we've talked about for months and how we want the supplemental roster to be built out. And man, fuck it. Like, bring me Irvin Torres, bring me Vigo Ortiz. Like, maybe not quite yet, but like, we want to start seeing some of those names that we know have higher profiles in our academy getting these last couple spots on the supplemental roster. So first of many, hopefully.
Totally agree, man.
So I guess that kind of, we've got the the roster spots up here on the YouTube for those watching the video pod. Shout out to our buddy Tom, who pointed out while you and I were at the Spurs game last week, we came out of the game. I went, shit, we didn't have Obrian on the roster spreadsheet last week. So shout out to Tom for pointing that out. So we got Hodder in there now. We've got Guilherme in there now and Micah. So 3 open spots on the senior roster if we're not considering Musa, who we don't expect to return. And 5 of the 10 supplemental spots now occupied here. So we know there has to be at least 1 more senior roster signing before the freeze date in February. And there can be up to 3. And then again, up to 5 supplemental guys who would be, reserve minimum or other homegrown signings that we may potentially make, probably not super likely there. Also added just our DP spots, U22s, and international slots there on the right of the spreadsheet. So I'm not sure. I think while Musa is out on loan, I think that international spot is open. So we have at least 2, maybe 3 international spots left after, of course, Danny got his visa last week, so took him off of there, even though the official roster does not have that designation removed yet. We're counting on that football critic reporting there. So our international spots for guys who are here, Seba, Emmy, Leo, Hodder, and Biro, excuse me. Still working on it,
We'll get there, buddy.
Yeah, so we've got, there is still a lot of flexibility here. And I think without maybe leaving some of the head scratching on Stephen Cleveland in the rear view, all these other moves we're super pumped for.
Bro, looking at this sheet, right? Look at the departures.
Yeah.
And then look who we brought in and tell me we didn't get better.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Maxi gave us nothing last season.
Right.
Rodney gave us 2 flashes of like, hey, thanks.
It was cute. Yeah,
exactly. Will, obviously, extremely limited, played his ass off.
Yeah.
Still 34 years old. Yeah. Way past his prime. Lundqvist, a disaster. Memo was here for a very brief amount of time. Didn't really get to see him. Obviously, Nicky, we were getting consistent starts out of. But you look at those departures, there's only 1 fucking starter there.
Yeah,
It was Lima, and it was almost out of goddamn necessity because we didn't have bodies to fucking put over there. We're flipping Johnny around. We're trying to make Lundqvist work. There's no way that you can tell me that this team is not better now than it was last season. And you look at that roster and you see the senior spots, and it's like, man, if we can stay healthy, there's talent on at all phases. Defensive talent. You have Leo in the midfield, obviously. You have the defensive stalwarts that this club has always had. Alex, Danny's still back. Jhojan coming on late. Like Seba up front. We understand he's one of the best players in the fucking league. If Emmy can be anything that, we thought he potentially could be here, man, it's an interesting looking roster, and we are 100% better than we were.
Yeah.
I have to assume the Stephen Cleveland dude, he profiles better than Bersano. I think that's
no, he does. There's no question, I think, about that.
Okay, so I think that's fair to say. And man, I'm just ready to go fucking watch the game.
Yep, it's not too far away. I think we don't have the depth chart up here, but the biggest hole to me now, and this is obviously not a hot take. Almost everybody thinks this, I believe. Striker, right? So you would think that would be where the next smoke comes from, or like the next senior spot. What do you think the chances are that we're waiting on that, DP level international striker for the summer, because we could still, if we keep Jhojan as the only U22, it can be a mid-season buy down of Alex Ring. So what do you think about, because he wasn't the worst at the not playing that kind of false nine-ish role, playing Emmy up there, rotating him with G until we get to the middle of the season. You stay afloat, you stay competitive, which again, to your point, if this roster stays healthy, even half as healthy as they were last year, you would think you would be able to hang around in that 5 to 8 range and then make at least one big splash in the summer. I just think there's a lot of, we could see guys at different positions. Like if we're running 3 center backs, I don't think I have a problem getting some backup minutes from a guy like Owen Wolf on the left or the right. He did fine in that one game where he played left back, and we've seen positional conversions before that had us kind of scratching our heads work out. Obviously, Johnny turning into an all-star is the number one example, and I'm not trying to suggest at all that Owen would do that, but I think there's just guys like Emmy could play some striker minutes again. Owen could fit. We know he can, he backup goalkeeper according to some folks, but I just don't think we're maybe necessarily as shorthanded as it feels at some positions because of the willingness of the staff to let guys experiment at other positions.
I'm with you there, and I think it just has a few caveats that would need to go really well for it to be successful. Obviously, the first thing being health. Obviously, we know Giassi's an older player. He's got a lot of miles on those legs. He's not going to be able to run 34 games.
For sure.
It's impossible for that to happen. So seeing Rigoni in that false 9 is something that I could definitely see this team running. I mean, if you try to put out our best 11, right? That includes Owen and Emmy. And we've seen the versatility of Owen being able to kind of move him around the field and getting him on that left, taking up one of those wing positions. If Emmy is in that false 9 spot is not something that I hate. I don't think that is any stretch of the imagination that Owen can deliver in that position, if not solely based on his athleticism, his endurance, his ability to get up and down the field and effort plays along throughout the entire course of the game. So I could see the false 9 for Emmy for sure. Owen on that left, because if you're talking about our quality top 11, you pair Alex and Danny. Obviously, 10's out there. If G is not ready to go or whatever, we have you at Rigoni in that 9. You can have Ethan on the right, Owen on the left, fill it out the back with Leo, Hedges, or Julio if you're going to that 3. I understand that. And then if the wing backs are going to be Johnny and this Guilherme, that's it. You can see it coming together. You can see it coming together. And it's like, I agree that we are one very large impact signing away from being at the echelon that we want to be at.
Yeah, probably 2, right? We have to, Ring and Emmy have to be top level DP type of signings to compete for a championship.
I mean, yeah. And then you're talking about being one of the best teams in the league.
Yeah.
So I think that there is a lot that we can do with this roster, move dudes around, get solid rotation in that midfield. If you want to bring Owen back, you want to start Jhojan, whatever, there's just a lot that we can work with.
Yeah, man. And the alignment, right, now that we don't have all this bullshit going on in the front office this offseason, the fact that Roto got here mid-season last year, I think is so important to the success of this window. And of course, the 2 to come in our 2 to 3 window time frame that we've been given by the GM. And obviously there are multiple pieces that are still going to be added here, trialists that we will uncover during training camp through the crumbs and Verde Hill and the like. You mentioned Will Bruin was a trialist last year that turned out he had some pretty big moments for a team that obviously came up short last year, but Felipe the year prior was a trialist. And so I think we're going to get 1, maybe 2 guys that we can fit onto that supplemental roster, vet min contracts. And the ceiling of that is if you had added a Felipe to this team, 2022 Felipe, right? Yeah. We would be like, oh God. And we're not going to know that until it actually happens, but I don't know, man. It's all happening.
Dude, it's fucking exciting.
Yeah. All right, well, we'll push ahead here. A couple other first team news items that we can discuss. I think on last week's episode, we talked about Football Critic reporting that the front office had raised their asking price on Danny from $1 million in game to $4 million, which is ambitious. I think like just over $2 million in game is the record for a MLS trade there. But other news that definitely happened between last episode and this one, Danny did sign with a new agency, and it looks like it's Maxi's agency there. So you can take that for what it's worth. But new agency, he needs to negotiate an extension or a new contract with another team down the road or whatever happens. So like Danny also preparing, getting his ducks in a row for his next move. Hopefully it's still here, with us.
As he should, he's a good player. He's got to have,
absolutely.
You got to have good representation. Like that's how this shit works.
Hey man, they got Maxi $750K from us, so they're doing pretty good biz there on the agency side of things. What's that?
Has he signed anywhere yet?
He hasn't. I know he posted an IG story that had the little loading graphic on it and stuff. So maybe something soon. I don't think
that Inter Miami is going to work out for him.
Yeah, we'll see. There was a little like 18-hour Hader Obrian saga where there's a Mexican journalist, Fernando Esquivel, said that Austin had offered Obrian to Santos Laguna.
What?
And this led there was certainly some confusion there. Like that could happen. Like we could sell a player on. He's under contract for us, and so my thought was okay, well, let's see. Is Rodo trying to, what it reminded me of is Dwight in The Office when they have the little garage sale in the warehouse and he swaps up from a thumbtack to the telescope, then trades it for the magic beans. Like we're going to go from Kip Keller's rights to a 3rd round pick to Hader Obrian to whatever we were going to get from Santos. But this also allowed just for Hall of Fame level nonsense from just anonymous Twitter accounts who are no, the rule says this and that. And no, you're all wrong. Landon, this is where the CBA came in for the first time, clearing things up there. If you draft a guy in the reentry who had an option decline, that means you are picking up their option. Hader Obrian is under contract. And our buddy Phil West did confirm through one of his sources in the front office that Hader under contract reporting on Saturday. So it was a fun little segment of the last week before the real action started.
Leave us alone, Fernando.
We discussed last week the report out of Peru or Orlando, wherever that reporter was based out of, that Sebas Pino was coming to camp. Monday morning, Sheikh Touré posted an Instagram story on a plane, looking like he's headed back to Central Texas. You would think he's coming back for camp. So Touré looks like he's going to be in camp. You'd think Val and Sal and obviously Micah, now a member of the first team. We're going to see a number of those young faces, I think, come Saturday when that content starts rolling out.
I mean, I'm just so impressed, proud of Czech to come where he came from, to be here on the Austin FC2 team, to play the way that he played, to earn, that signing that he had there with us, the extension, right?
Yeah. What was it?
Just
let me pull up the FC2 contract.
Really impressed with the kid. I mean, he came in and, we're talking about, him shifting positions from an attacking player to moving into the back line, and it fucking worked. We had the best defense in the league, and he was a huge part of that. I'm just so impressed with him. I'm so happy that he's going to get a chance to play with the big boys there and keep developing, man. He's clearly somebody who wants to get better, wants to work on their craft. And as we've said before, none of these paths are linear. Everyone has to take their own journey to get to where they want to be. And while statistically and probability-wise, you see guys like Joe Hafferty and most of the time it doesn't work out. But there are situations where it does work out, and I'm just thrilled with Czech.
Yeah. Yeah, and so Austin FC2 does have his contract option for 2024. I imagine at some point we'll get a press release from FC2 talking about the option decisions on certain players that are up this year. And again, like we talked about before when we were discussing who we could see maybe pick up a supplemental, reserve minimum contract with the first team, Sheikh's certainly on there. And maybe it comes after, he has another good year with FC2, maybe called up a couple times. maybe put him on the Leagues Cup roster, things like that. Maybe he earns that type of deal in 2025. But we'll see, man. It is like you said, a big opportunity for Touré and anybody else who's invited to camp, up from FC2.
I mean, you look at Czechman, and it's like he's starting to fit the profile even more of these wingbacks that we are either converting or targeting now with Guilherme. Like speed, athleticism is involved in the offensive side of the ball, but has the ability to get back on defense.
Used to be a winger.
Yep, exactly. Yep. So it's like, it seems like he's fitting the profile. And again, it's just a large vision that takes time to build out and flesh out. And you're starting to see the foundation of that stuff really be set with the Micah signing. So it's a good day to be an Austin FC fan for sure.
Yeah, and I think we're going to see probably a lot of those younger guys mixing in out in Florida. We've got the full preseason schedule released by the club in the last week. So we're going out to Florida less than 2 weeks until our first preseason exhibition. These two out in Florida, once again against Philly and FC Cincinnati, closed to the public out there. But Tuesday, January 23rd, we will take on the Union. And then on Friday of that week, the 26th, taking on FC Cincinnati. So again, both teams going to be mixing in all types of players, probably different formations, alignments, what have you. But if you're going to go scrimmage two teams, give me the kind of the cream of the crop out in the East there. And we'll see Philly in 2 months as well.
Yep.
Then we've got our first Verde Hill date, one of a potential two this year. Saturday, February 3rd, Louisville City coming back to St. David's Performance Center. Played them last year. They had Manny Perez. He's been sold on to Europe now. So Saturday, February 3rd, I think those kicked off around 10:30 or 11 in the morning last year. We will certainly be out there with the oversized binoculars, hanging out with all our friends. It's, if you haven't been out there, definitely try to make the time. A little scrimmage action, just kind of, it's preseason for the fans too, right?
Yeah.
We're getting back into the swing of things. Then we go out to Coachella for the 3-game set out there against Chicago, the Galaxy, and the Red Bulls. And then New York City FC, Saturday, February 17th. That is a week before the home opener. I think that could be at Q2, closed gate scrimmage there. It would make some sense as like the dress rehearsal for the stadium technology, the PA announcers, etc. But if that's on Verde Hill as well, we will certainly be out there. So there's your preseason schedule. Anything else for you on that besides excitement?
Oh man, stay healthy, boys. That's priority one. But man, I'm excited. I know the community is excited. The fans are ready to get back, and all of this stuff right here is just encouraging and fun to see, and it feels like we're back, baby.
Yeah, check this out. The diehards taking it to a new level this year. We know training camp guys report on Saturday, the 13th this year. First practice is going to be Monday morning. There are a group of fans going out to the parking lot at St. David's Performance Center to welcome the guys to the first practice, and then, take a little peek over Verde Hill and see how the guys are looking there on Monday morning. So I don't think I'm going to be able to make it out to that one. It is a Monday morning, but shout out to those who are. We love that kind of stuff.
Love it. Greatest fans in the world, baby.
All right, our last business day, just a little news item here, a little rumor for FC2. But per Rasmus Glud Elmdahl, Austin FC2 looks like they're making a move for Danish goalkeeper Marcus Ahlstrup, who is on his way to Texas to sign with FC2. According to Rasmus there, looks like a 19-year-old goalkeeper. And I think for me, just kind of pours more fuel onto the fire of Damian Loss being loaned out to a USL side.
I agree. And as much as that feels shitty, I do think it's the right move. He needs to step up in competition. He needs to develop more. And being able to retain him throughout that is what we care about.
Well, let's jump into some of the MLS news of the week. And there's plenty of it. to close out the pod here. First, not player personnel news here, but according to The Athletic, there is a officials work stoppage, quote, imminent. The CBA expires on January 15th, and the two sides are far apart on a deal. So are you ready for replacement referees in 2024?
Well, what?
Yep.
Shit.
You never thought you'd want Drew Fisher at Q2, did you?
Well, I mean, I guess they can't find an agreement because the refs aren't holding up their end of the fucking bargain. Man, that would be a disaster. That would
it would not be good.
Imagine having some FC2 refs out there who are just absolutely incompetent.
Those are the same officials, though. Remember we had the one, I forget her name, but there was the head official out at the FC2 game on Friday, and then she was the fourth official on Saturday for the first team. That's still PRO. So it is, and I think like USL sometimes uses PRO. I think Open Cup, like this is not just affecting the first division. It is going to have ripple effects throughout U.S. soccer, and it's not good.
That does not sound good. What, they want more money?
Yeah, and I mean,
I wonder what they're making. What, like 50, 60?
I think obviously there's probably tiers, like your head official, you're going to make a little bit more. But I saw some numbers and figures earlier this week when I was kind of poking around that news. I don't have it offhand, but like the numbers were even to me like surprisingly low for some of those ARs and guys like that. And like we'll give the ref shit, of course. But like I think I can't speak for you. I'm pretty much always going to be pro labor in this situation. Like get them paid. Because like we're gonna feel the effects. I would think like right off the bat.
This would be very bad for the league, but like the direction where, can you imagine you have some fucking amateur reffing a messy game?
Yeah, bro. And like, that's the thing. We're supposed to be rolling in it right now.
Exactly. I don't that's really weird. I hope that that's just some posturing shit and like that they can come together here because I mean, obviously, we've gone on record with our tirades against the officiating and still, it would be really detrimental to the league as a whole if we don't have actual professional refs out there. Yeah.
So player personnel news, some huge names on the move here. First up, Cade Cowell, sold to Chivas.
Baby.
I don't know what has changed there. Maybe we got to ask H. He's a Chivas fan. Because they only signed Mexican nationals until and like I think Cade is dual national. But there's pictures of him in the U.S. jerseys. It's like, I mean, I imagine the Chivas fans are probably maybe some of them welcoming like this change to bring it. Like, it just expands the pool of players you can have. Like bringing in Cade Cowell is not a bad thing. I know he hasn't like his counting stats haven't necessarily been there for San Jose, but there's no doubt that this kid is still like a top prospect.
I agree. When you told me that, I was super excited for him. I was like, fuck yeah, dude. Like breaking some barriers there. Like that's cool as hell. Like go down there and show out. I would assume obviously that there's people in the fan base who are excited about it, people in their fan base who are not very excited about it. But that doesn't impact Cade. He's got to go out there and do his thing. And I'm happy for him. I'm excited. The introduction to that Mexican league last year was just so fucking cool to see those teams, man, and just to be able to play against them. So that's great, man. I think it's a great thing. I'm excited.
$4 million was the fee, plus some add-ons, plus a sell-on percentage. So it looks like probably some good business by the Earthquakes there. And then Rayados, right? We had talked, I think, about the rumors about them buying Brandon Vasquez. Well, they go through with it, $8.5 million going back to Cincy. So some good business on paper, at least there. But losing some attacking prowess is Cincinnati. Looks like they're going to try to replace Brandon with Corey Baird, of course, 27 years old, coming off his career best 14 goals, 8 assists with the Dynamo last year. So Corey Baird, career year and cashing in there. Certainly moving on to a better club, at least in our biased eyes up there in Cincinnati. Facundo Torres, club record signing for Orlando, signs an extension through 2026, and they've got two options on that contract. So Orlando, 2 seed last year, extension with your best player. Those fans are probably pretty happy today.
Absolutely.
Rapids continue to make a flurry of moves. They signed, and this was today, Adam Beaudry to a homegrown deal. He's Micah's teammate from the US U17s. I imagine, considering they just signed Zach Steffen, that we will be seeing Adam Beaudry at the pitch when Rapids 2 comes to play. So 17-year-old homegrown deal there for the Rapids. And then Rapids not done. Trading for Jasper Loffelson, former Pitt Panther, teammate, I believe, of Val Noel, Jackson Valti, and those guys. Loffelson to Colorado in exchange for an international spot, a 2025 second-round pick, and potentially up to $100K in GAM incentives. So Colorado, just busy.
Active, very active. Yep.
First sign of life from our rivals to the north, FC Dallas, signing 35-year-old Omar Gonzalez. Last year played with the New England Revolution. I'd rather have aging Matt Hedges than aging Omar Gonzalez. That's just me.
I agree with that.
Whitecaps signed Fafa Pico. 1-year deal, no options. And I think he has played certainly every year that we've been watching the league. I think he's played for a different team.
Yeah.
And so going north of the border there to Vancouver, certainly bringing some speed, maybe some inconsistent production to the Whitecaps. They're certainly not hurting for attacking options there. Speaking of veterans, Atlanta signed 36-year-old vet midfielder Dax McCarty, second in league history with 466 appearances. Still get out there, do his best, in Nashville, still an effective player. But at worst, one of the top veterans in MLS history, good locker room presence there. Probably a pretty good signing there in Atlanta, especially with the high turnover they've had and probably will continue to, considering Almada and some of their other young guys.
That's a good sign. Great veteran, a good leader. He's physical. He's just a quality player, and I think that is a good move for them for sure.
Yeah. Inter Miami finalized the Julian Gressel signing, and today the rumors that they are trying to figure out a way to bring Coutinho along as well. So we'll keep our eye on Inter Messi. The Galaxy signing Gabriel Peck from Vasco da Gama of Brazil, $10 million deal, which may edge out club record signing of Chicharito. So new DP next to Ricky Puig there. Looked like the Galaxy fans pretty excited about this kid.
They had a rough year, man. They definitely needed something. So I'm not going to wish him luck, but
right. Well, there's I will wish him. I won't wish him luck because not even that, because we might need a little ankle tweak. Keep him out of there. We need Fagundes minutes. We want those GAM incentives, and
true.
He's a winger.
True.
So I think this signing is actually bad news for Austin. But we'll keep our eye on that. We want all the Diego minutes we can get out there with the Galaxy this year. The Denny Bouanga saga took another turn. We had the rumors about the Saudi League last week. Now has stated his intent in a French publication to return to France or another European side, which makes sense. Also probably a bargaining chip, considering he's only being paid just a hair over $2 million, I think, on his DP deal, and clearly should be a top 5 at worst in terms of pay in the league. He was 7th in the world, right, in total goals last year. Like, pay this man.
And in that market, like, obviously it's also translating onto the field for success. Like, yes, he needs to be one of the top paid players in this league. Yeah.
I would rather them move him and try to replace him.
I would love it if he was gone.
Yep. Little St. Louis news. They signed Denmark youth international Nicholas Deer from FC Midtjylland, 22-year-old, 103 appearances with Midtjylland. Look like the St. Louis fans pretty excited about that young signing as well. And then lastly, but not leastly, Timbers making another move, continuing their rebuild. They signed Maxime Crépeau from LAFC after LAFC brought in Lloris. So certainly an upgrade over, what was a mixture of average to below average goalkeeping last year for the Timbers. So adding Crépeau, adding Kamal Miller, Zach McGraw is still back there, certainly fortifying their back line.
Yeah, I mean, you knew Crépeau was going to get picked up somewhere, and for him to go there, that's a big upgrade from what they were working with last year.
Yep. That does it for the MLS news. Over an hour, first time in a while here on the North End podcast, but that means we are getting closer to the season. And we're 13 days away from a preseason exhibition. It's coming.
Crazy, man. Yeah, it's crazy. It was with the MLS Cup ending and to be here now, like it's all blended together and we're right on the doorstep.
Yep. By this time next week, we will have at least one edition, you would think, of the preseason crumbs on the Twitter account. So keep an eye out for that. And we appreciate you tuning in, sticking with us here on episode 113 of the North End podcast. If you've got 5 extra seconds to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast, wherever you get your podcasts, we would greatly appreciate it. And of course, make sure you mention the North End podcast to all of your Austin FC friends. The season's starting back up. Get all the information, the crumbs, with the North End. And of course, if you're watching on the YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. You can hit the notification bell to know when a live stream pops up or a new episode goes live. And of course, on this episode, hit that like button, hit the thumbs up, help us battle the YouTube algorithm overlords, atone for your sins, wash yourselves clean in the kitchen of Rodolfo Burrell. We will be back next Wednesday, recapping everything in the Austin FC universe, the beginning of training camp, all the other MLS news, everything in between next week here on the North End. Thanks again for joining us. We'll see you guys next week. Until then, easy. I'm Zach. Vamos Austin FC, everybody. Goodbye.